friends, it's Therese and welcome back to my channel. Today's video is going to be me talking about some of the series that I plan to finish in 2021. I used to be really good at reading series. Like, I would either binge them back to back or I would read one book from the series every month and then finish it pretty quickly. And then things happened. I got deeper into booktube and then I would start series with no clear date or goal as to when I was going to finish them. And then I just kept starting series. Also, the other problem was that I would start reading some of these series as the books were coming out. Sometimes I'd buy the books in paperback, and depending on my mood, I would continue waiting for the books to come out in paperback, or if I got impatient, like with most of the books on these shelves. Some of them would be in hardcover, so I try to be a little bit better about that. Not that it bothers me too much anymore, but sometimes in cases of An Ember in the Ashes, I would like to finish that all on paperback. The Diviners would like to be nice in paperback, and The Cruel Prince and The Girls of Paper and Fire would be nice in hardback. So sometimes things come out in paperback really quickly, sometimes it takes 2 years, and in those 2 years I have picked up more and more series, and I've forgotten to finish the other series that I have somewhat misplaced because I was waiting for them to come out on paperback. Let's just get into it. This isn't even the comprehensive list. These were just the series that I picked out that I really need to finish in 2021 to decide whether or not I like the series or not. Because now, the anticipation is just bugging me. It's just bugging me. This first book is actually a booktube favorite, and then I don't know what happened to it when the series actually ended. I didn't hear anything else after the first 2 books. And that is Three Dark Crowns. But that is Three Dark Crowns by Kendare Blake. This is a YA high fantasy novel following these triplets who were separated at a pretty young age, only to be raised to kill each other for the throne. I have the first 2 books and I have read the first 2 books, and I actually really enjoyed the series. I think the writing was absolutely marvelous and straight to the point without getting rid of descriptions and your ability to imagine things, and also a flowery descriptor as well. I don't know what happened. I just never, I read this at the early stages of my booktube career, and then I just never picked up the series afterward. I think I got distracted with Cinder or something, and Throne of Glass and A Court of Mist, and I just would you. So I'll probably be picking up the audiobooks for both Three Dark Crowns and One Dark Throne, but I have a fairly okay grasp as to what happens in the last 2 books. So I might just, like I said, just borrow the audiobook, put it on ×3, and metaphorically skim through the first 2 books, then pick up the 3rd and 4th book. But I do plan on finishing this quartet this year, because it's just getting ridiculous now. The next book is going to get a couple of my friends to scream finally. That is Renegades by Marissa Meyer. But if you don't know, Renegades by Marissa Meyer is a YA sci-fi novel set in the future following superheroes' kids, which is my favorite thing in the world. The fan fiction girl in me who loves to write about an OC's children with Steve Rogers. This was really nice. Basically, it follows Nova, who is half Filipino, which is very important to my small little soul, who's trying to take a revenge on the hero kind of factor, as she is a villain factor, as she is subsiding in the villain. She's a villain. And she goes undercover to kind of break apart this very well-known superheroes. I read the first book and I absolutely adored it. I never picked up the 2nd book or the 3rd book, and now I'm just waiting for the paperbacks to come out, which I believe Renegade, the last one, which was what was it, Supernova? Yeah, it's Supernova, came out in 2019, so the paperback should be available for the last 2 books. So I'll probably be picking up these books pretty soon. This next one will also get a couple of my friends to scream, and that is The Cruel Prince by Holly Black. Now, I read this back when it first came out, didn't like it too much, had to reread it via audiobook, and then I finally picked up Wicked King last year, and I really enjoyed that over The Cruel Prince. If you guys do not know, Cruel Prince is a YA high fantasy novel following Jude Duarte, who has been taken from her home in the human world when she was a small child, only to be raised with the Fae. And now that she's about 16ish, she wants to be part of this world that she has always been ostracized from, and decides to become a knight. But in order for her to become a knight of the court, she has to do some really kind of disgusting things, and finds herself getting more and more mixed up with the Cruel Prince in order to do so. Like I said, I really wasn't a huge fan of the first book. I thought that, like, while it was interesting, it wasn't interesting enough for, like, to keep my hold on it. And I didn't get more invested into the book until I reread it on the audiobook and then finally picked up the second book. So I'm going to be finishing up the series very soon. I just have to find the Barnes & Noble special edition, probably online, of the third book, so all my covers match, because it would be very upsetting if I somehow only had the one that was not matching. But also, Queen of Nothing doesn't, like, none of these books come up as hardbacks, like, in person, so I really don't have a choice but to order it online. The next one that I'm hoping to finish is Throne of Glass by Sarah J Maas. This is a high fantasy YA novel, again, following an assassin who has been enslaved, and after she has been freed, she is forced to partake in the king's champion kind of battle for her freedom. I am like 1.5 books from finishing, and when I say 1.5, I mean because Assassin's Blade is also still included in this list, and I do plan on reading it, but I am literally 1 book away from finishing the series. The upsetting thing is that I bought Throne of Glass in hardback, so I'll probably be buying Assassin's Blade in hardback. Like, I've been waiting for Kingdom of Ash to come out in paperback, because, like, literally the entire other series is in paperback, so it only makes sense for me to finish it off. But, like, again, it's always that wait for paperback that kind of ruins my momentum with finishing series. It's really unfortunate, and I can hear Andrew going, buy the paperback. Because I think the paperback was just recently released. I could be wrong, though. The next series, again, has the same dilemma as these other series that I bought it in paperback and have been since waiting for the remainder of the series to come out in paperback, and it's been a time. Like, I can't finish an Ember in the Ashes, like, quartet just quite yet, because, like, no paperback, so. But that series is Stalking Jack the Ripper by Kerri Maniscalco. Lisa, breathe. I can hear Lisa just screaming. But this is a historical fiction novel set in the Victorian London following Audrey Rose, who has an interest in, like, what's the word I'm looking for? It's where they cut people open when they're dead. What is it? It's the snip snips for those who aren't alive anymore. They're unalived. I don't remember. It's a thing that it's when people are unalived and they have to, like, cut them open and, like, see how they died and, you know, take out organs and, like, figure out and make sure they didn't die from, like, natural causes like murder. It's that word. And she's not welcome in it because it's a very male-dominated society. However, when Jack the Ripper starts to begin his killings, she starts to become very invested and tries to find out who Jack the Ripper is and all that fun stuff. Now, I read the second book fairly recently, about the third book, and I believe the fourth book just came out in paperback, so, like, I just gotta read through these books and finish it, and it'll be the first series, or one of the first series that I have finished in 2021, and I can move on with my life. And by move on, I mean cry over Thomas Cresswell. But then I can move on with my life, and it'll be no longer hanging over my head like a freaking anvil in a cartoon. The next book, I believe, recently finished like a year ago, so I'm assuming the paperback should be coming soon, but I could be very wrong. But that is Truly Devious by Maureen Johnson. This is a YA, dark academia. This is going to mess with my white light, it's fine. It's a dark academia mystery novel following this young girl who attends this very prestigious school where you literally go there because you are interested in one thing and one thing only. Her interest is true crime, and for her big project she ends up taking on the mystery of what exactly happened at the school she's attending, which caused the owner's wife and daughter to go missing and probably is dead, and leading up to their death. I really enjoyed the first book. I felt like I had my issues with it, which is why I was hesitant to pick up the subsequent books, but I'm hoping that the subsequent books are better, and I have heard that the rest of the books are increasingly better than the first one, so I'm excited to see where else this is going. And, like, the covers are also just, like, my favorite thing in the world. I love them. They mess up my white balance, but I love them. So I'm excited to pick up the next, like, I think it's a trilogy, the next 2 books, and hopefully I'll enjoy them and it'll be a good time and I won't hate it. I didn't hate this book. I had a lot of issues with this book, but I did not hate it. The next up on this list is actually a duology, and that is A Darker Shade of Magic by Victor V. E. Schwab. This is Anne and adult high fantasy novel following Kel, who is one of the few travelers who can travel between the different Londons. There are some Londons with more magic, like Red London, then there's Black London, Grey London, White London, so on and so forth. And he's like, I think the one of two travelers who can travel between the worlds, and that opens up for an entire like world of hurt. I read this back July. I really enjoyed it. I thought I had my issues with it, but like, it is what it is. I'm super excited to pick up the next book, which is Gathering of Shadows. Gathering of Shadows. Very excited to read that and see exactly what happens. I've heard, I think, pretty mixed things about A Gathering of Shadows, but like, your girl gotta finish the series, so I gotta stop listening to those reviews and just pick up the book. And thankfully, it is out in paperback, so we don't gotta wait. Paperbacks are just cheaper, okay? I love the look of hardbacks, but like, sometimes your girl just has to buy a paperback because it's cheaper. It's significantly cheaper. Like, a YA paperback is like $6, and then its counterpart is like $20. Like, what do you want me to do? And the last series on this list is The Diviners by Libba Bray. I have tried so many times to read through this series, but then I get reminded that the last book isn't in paperback yet, and then I don't want to pick up the remainder of the series. But this is a YA horror mystery kind of scenario following Evie O'Neill, who is forced to come live in New York after she caused some trouble back at her hometown in, I think, Ohio. As she moves here expecting kind of like the glamorized life of New York in the 20s, she finds out that there are a string of murders that she could potentially help solve because she has this ability to be able to tell what happened to a person or a person's life just by touching an object that they had owned. I really enjoyed the series. I think it's wonderfully written and I love it so much. I have the second book, and I've reread the second book a few times. I'm sure like when I read the second book again, I'll love it just as much as the first book, but like the first book always gets me and I don't know why exactly. But the second book is like a different love for different reasons. And like, again, this book came out I think in 2020. No, late 2019. No, early 2020. So I'm hoping by late 2021, the last book will have come out in paperback and I can just finish the rest of the series, not have to worry about it. Because like, because me purchasing books because I've been waiting for paperback, kind of a struggle. But that is it for the books that I plan, or the series that I plan on finishing in 2021. This is not the full list. It's not the full list. There are more books I could potentially finish in 2021, but I didn't want to give myself an overwhelmingly large list and then refer back to this list at the end of 2021 and reflect and see that I overwhelmed myself to the point where I only finished like one series. So, kept it kind of manageable. I'm really hoping to get to these books in 2021. I just like have been struggling to whittle down my actual TBR, and I think I've reached the point where I'm at like 30, less than like 30 books, or like at 20 something books by now, so I can start adding back to that TBR and then like whittle it down by reading series. So like, wish me luck this year because I'm gonna need it. But that is it for the video. If you guys enjoyed, hit like, subscribe, comment. Let me know what books or series you guys are planning on reading in 2021/finishing in 2021. If y'all have read any of these series and finished it, what your thoughts are, just let me know. But until next time, you guys know what to do, which is like hit like, subscribe, comment, share if you would like. But until then, I hope you guys are having a great week, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye!